I'm going to spend this morning talking about how our Pulse Charger Maintainer is a little bit different than most of the other ones on the market. One of the features I have on our tester model, which is this one right here, is the ability to test a battery and to test a charging system in a vehicle. And that's uncommon because what we've married up here is a battery tester, charging system analyzer, and a maintainer charger all in one box. What's important about that is this. Most of the maintainers, trickle chargers on the market don't tell you if your battery's good or bad. If you're going to maintain something, let's say for the winter, it's really nice to know if the battery's even worthy of being maintained. So unless you're fortunate enough to have fancy battery testers or other equipment, you don't need anything else other than this unit here. And not only do you not need anything else, but you can just use it the way it is. It doesn't have to be plugged in to be a battery tester. When it's unplugged from the wall and just with a set of alligator clips or even from the cigarette lighter, you can test any car's battery and you can test any car's charging system. So I'm going to give you a little show here now of what the display looks like when it's plugged in and what the different things are that we show you about your battery when you plug it onto a battery. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. We've got a battery here and I've got our charger. And I've gone ahead and plugged it in because you can test with it plugged in or not plugged in and stuff. What you simply do, whether the battery's in a vehicle or whether the battery's sitting on a shelf like this, is you connect up the positive to the positive and the negative to the negative. And then you can see from the screen here that it lights up. The light here on the left, the blue light, is a power light. That tells you you've got AC power being plugged in. The next little LED says full. When the battery gets charged up all the way, the full light will come on. The top here, this bar, it says 20%, 40, 60, 80, 100%. That's the charge level of the battery. Now this battery is fully charged and the full light came on. The voltage going into the battery, this is showing you what we're putting in the battery, and that changes depending on the status and the stage that the battery charger is in. And also the amps going in the battery. And so let's just talk about this as far as testing. If you plug this onto a battery and that amp meter right down there stays at 0, and doesn't change in the first few minutes, your battery is bad. A battery has got to pull amps in order to be good. If it doesn't pull any amps, it means it's sulfated to the extent that it won't take a charge, or maybe a plate is broken. And so the first test is simply, am I getting some amps into my battery? Now, in this case, once it's charged up all the way, the amps will go down to 0, and that's another thing to test. After a day or so, or depending on how big the battery is, or how many batteries you've got connected to some of our other units, that's got to go down to 0 when it's fully charged, when that full light comes on. And then it shows you the voltage that the battery's holding, and we have charts for this, but make it real simple. A 12-volt battery's got to hold something in the 12-volt range. 12 volts on the nose is kind of weak, but still acceptable. 12.5 is kind of average. 13 volts is exceptional. This happens to be a fantastic battery. But something in that range. And the other thing that quite often people don't understand is that every tenth of a volt, between 13 and 12 volts, is about 10% of the battery's power. So if you get a battery down in the 12-volt range, it's getting old. Now, it'll still start a car at 12 volts. It'll even start a car in the 11-volt range, or some cars. But you're dealing on a sulfated battery, and you're dealing on a battery that has no reserve. So if you make a mistake like leaving your headlights on, or playing your stereo too long in a parking lot, or leaving your garage on a cold day and parking out on a cold day, as soon as the battery starts to get colder, it becomes less efficient. And those are the kind of batteries that leave you stranded. So I want to know that. Now, there's two other tests that you can do with this while it's in a car, and it's very simple to do. You crank your engine. Now, when you crank your engine, that's the hardest thing for the battery to do. A good battery will go down a little bit, a volt and a half. A weak battery will go down 4 or 5 volts or even more. If your battery goes way down when you crank the engine, I don't care if it starts or not, it's a weak battery. That's your second test. That's the hardest test. And then the third test, of course, is when your car starts, you should see the voltage go up. The alternator or the generator should start charging. 14.4 to 14.6 volts is the maximum that I want to see on a 12 volt car. Since this automatically works with 6 volt cars too, 7.2, 7.3 is the maximum I want to see on a 6 volt car coming out of the alternator. Or on a 6 volt car, it would be a generator and stuff. So you need to test for that. If it doesn't move, it's not the battery's problem if you're having an issue with that car. It's the charging system's problem. And so very simple to use, very accurate. If you take this to a battery and it's not plugged in, the only thing you don't get is the background. Okay, you don't get the pretty blue lights. But if I were to come up to a battery, I just want to know what's going on with the battery. And I can do this on a lawnmower, a car, a truck. I don't care what it is. All I do is connect up the positive, negative to negative. And you can see here, it takes a second, but boom. 13 volts, 5 bars, fully charged. Of course, it's got no amps coming in because we're not plugged into the AC. And now I could go ahead and I could start the car up and test for that. And if I wanted to, I could also, once the car gets started, make sure that my alternator or my generator is putting out power. So that's how you use the Battery Saver Tester Models. Gives you a lot more information. Anybody can do it. It's not hard to do. And it tells you how good your battery is under a load when you're starting, how good your battery is, and then when it starts, if you're charging. And those are the basic things you want to know on any kind of vehicle that's out there. Simple as that. Thanks.